Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to dive deep into building wealth in your 30s. We're looking at what it actually takes to transform your financial life when you're starting a little later than you'd like. Now, this isn't about getting lucky or inheriting some massive fortune, right? It's about the very real, kind of unglamorous mechanics of building wealth when you feel like you've already lost the head start.
Okay, so picture this. It's a Tuesday morning, you're 32 years old, sitting at a kitchen table in your apartment. The countertop is warped, the radiator bangs all night, but honestly, that's not why you're awake. You're awake because of a single, terrifying number, $214. That's exactly what's sitting in your savings account. Not after bills, not after rent, that's after everything. And along with that $214, you're carrying a whole head full of excuses from your 20s, kind of like luggage you just never got around to unpacking.
So, phase one, the reality check at 32.
You know, it's actually kind of shocking how a totally fine-sounding salary just evaporates. Let's break the numbers down. You make $68,400 a year. After taxes, that's about $3,940 a month. Sounds okay, right? But then there's rent at $1,550, a car payment of $387. Factor in your insurance, student loans, groceries, and oh yeah, those $94 in random subscriptions you completely forgot about. After all that, you have about $1,000 left. But here's the kicker. Your credit card statement shows you've been spending over $1,300 on everything else. The brutal reality? You have literally been going backward by $261 every single month. You aren't 22 anymore. You have a real professional income. And well, it's time to stop lying to yourself.
But here's the good news. When you finally stop lying about the numbers, you realize you aren't doomed. The math of your 30s is actually pretty forgiving if you take action. If you can eliminate that monthly deficit and just commit to investing $600 a month at an average 9% return, you can still reach over $1.1 million by age 62. That's not some overly optimistic sales pitch, it's just pure arithmetic. But to get to that positive $600 a month, you've got to do some pretty heavy lifting first.
Which brings us to phase two, the unsexy first thousand.
Starting from scratch in your 30s is incredibly hard. Mostly because $1,000 is also a surprise car repair, or a medical bill, or a flight home. Life just has way more surface area now. So the key here is making these quiet, uncelebrated sacrifices. You scrape together that first starter buffer by selling that fancy jacket for $85. You finally cancel those 3 subscriptions for $94. You pack your lunch for 6 straight weeks to save $180. You even swallow your pride and work 2 extra Saturday shifts for $320. And then, one morning, you check your app and you see it, $1,043. Nobody's throwing you a parade, but you feel this solid realization that you can actually change your financial direction.
Now let's fast forward a bit to age 33. This is where you build the automation engine. You realize you can't just rely on willpower anymore, right? So in the second of every single month, you set it up so $400 automatically sweeps into a Roth IRA, and another $200 goes straight into a high-yield savings account. It leaves your checking account before you even have the chance to rationalize spending it. Sure, things are a little tight, but the system is working.
And thank goodness you set that up, because on a freezing Wednesday morning in February, your car makes this awful grinding groan. You get towed to a mechanic, and they hit you with a massive repair bill, $2,300. Now, 3 years ago, this would have absolutely destroyed you. It would have been an instant crisis, slapped on a credit card, cue the emotional spiral. But today, you just sit in the cold passenger seat, look at your savings account, and simply transfer the cash. You absorb an emergency without going into debt, and you feel something way steadier than happiness. You feel secure.
All right, moving on to phase 3, rewiring your financial mindset.
As you hit your mid-30s, it's not even about the account balances anymore. It's about the invisible shifts in your brain. For instance, at 34, you face your first real market panic. The market tanks 18%. You watch real money evaporate right before your eyes. You stress check your account every day for 2 weeks, but then you force yourself to stop. You keep contributing. You actually buy more shares at the lower prices. But most importantly, you do not sell. And by December, it's literally like the drop never even happened.
That survival instinct leads to what I like to call the coffee maker epiphany. You're in a store replacing a broken coffee maker. You've got a basic $39 model in one hand and a $119 thermal carafe model with a 5-year warranty in the other. 5 years ago, you'd have grabbed the cheap one without a second thought. But now, you instinctively do the math. Over 5 years, that $119 model costs just 4 cents per use. You realize you're no longer making decisions based on a 30-day window. You're calculating long-term value. And honestly, that mindset shift is a total game changer. Then, at 35, the corporate weather shifts. An email goes out about a restructuring. The office goes dead silent. You run your numbers and realize your savings will buy you exactly 3 months. You aren't one paycheck away from disaster anymore, but you aren't totally safe either. 2 weeks later, 11 colleagues get laid off. Watching them carry boxes to their cars gives you this cold clarity. You immediately decide to double your emergency fund from 3 months to 6 months, all without touching your investments.
Around this same time, you run into the status trap. Your friend Marcus rolls up in a brand new 2024 BMW 5 Series. He financed it at 6.9%, meaning that $62,000 car is actually going to cost him over $77,000. Sitting in that plush passenger seat, you definitely feel the pull of desire, for sure. But you've learned something crucial. Desire isn't the enemy. Desire on a schedule is. You realize his $77,000 debt just traded away his future options. So you walk back to your paid-off 2018 Honda Civic, and instead of jealousy, you just feel crystal clear clarity.
Which leads us to phase 4, the power of structural wealth.
By your late 30s, all this unsexy discipline cures into a solid foundation. One random Thursday, you're checking your app between meetings, and you see it. Your portfolio just crossed $50,000. You're just eating a sandwich at your desk, but that number sits with you all day like this warm, steady hum. Because you know you finally have structural wealth that can hold real weight.
And at 38, that foundation gets put to the test. Your mom calls you on a Sunday evening, sounding super stressed. Her roof has been leaking and a contractor just quoted her $6,000. She's practically apologizing for even telling you. But because of everything you've built, without a second of hesitation, you simply say, "I'll take care of it." The next day, you transfer the cash. No debt, no shame spiral, no lost sleep.
That night, it really hits you. This is what building wealth is actually for. It's not about hitting some arbitrary number on a screen. True wealth is the sheer capacity, the absolute option to say yes and show up for the people you love without it costing you your own stability. Finally, we arrive at the culmination of this journey. Phase 5, the morning you turn 40.
By the time you're 39, your money is working harder than you are. Your investments are generating over $9,000 a year purely from growth. That's not money you put in, that's just capital doing what capital does, while you sleep, while you're sick, or while you're just out living your life. Plus, no credit card debt, and the student loans are entirely gone.
But you know, there is this part of the journey nobody really talks about, the quiet loneliness of it all. You're out splitting a dinner bill with old friends, and you realize some are in genuine financial pain, while others are just spending every dime they make, relying on hope. You carry your success privately, because you know people only really change when they're sitting in the dark at their own kitchen table, facing their own uncomfortable numbers.
Looking back, this timeline perfectly maps your evolution. From that desperate Tuesday morning panic with $214 to the invisible mindset shifts at 34. From absorbing that $6,000 roof repair at 38, all the way to arriving at a place of genuine, unshakable financial peace at 40.
Because you refused to look away from the math 8 years ago, you wake up at 40 with a net worth over $200,000. It's completely liquid and it's working for you. Just to put that into perspective, that is nearly 6 times the net worth of the median American at age 40, which sits right around $35,000.
Lying in bed on your 40th birthday, you realize wealth didn't feel like a number at all. It felt like paying for a transmission without panicking. It felt like surviving a layoff announcement without fear. It felt like waking up knowing the future is no longer something happening to you, it's something you started. Which leaves us with one final, absolutely crucial question for you to ponder today. When will you start?